Hey everyone, and welcome. So today we're tackling a real literary head-scratcher. It's all about one of Charles Dickens's most debated novels, Hard Times. And for as long as it's been around, it has torn critics right down the middle.
And that's really the big question we're looking at, right? How can one single book be called a stroke of genius by one brilliant mind and a complete train wreck by another? It's a fascinating critical showdown, so let's get into it.
Okay, so in one corner, you've got the celebrated writer J.B. Priestley. For him, Hard Times is just the bottom of the barrel. But in the other corner, the super influential critic F.R. Leavis, who argues no, it's Dickens's absolute peak. I mean, you just can't get two opinions more different than that. So, who's right?
All right, to get to the bottom of this, we've got to hear the case for the prosecution first. Let's start with J.B. Priestley and the powerful argument he builds against Hard Times.
For Priestley, it's not just a few small problems. He thinks the book is a massive failure at its very core. He argues that the one thing that makes Dickens, that incredible, boundless creative imagination, is just gone.
Priestley's got a whole list of complaints. He thinks the social critique is all muddled up. The language is way too over the top and theatrical. He says the characters aren't real people. They're just flat cartoons. And he really hammers home that it feels melodramatic and, maybe most damning of all, that it was written from a place of ignorance. That Dickens never really got the industrial world he was trying to critique.
In this quote right here, it really just sums up his whole argument perfectly. He claims Coketown, the industrial city in the novel, feels like something Dickens just glanced at from a train window. It's propaganda, not a real, breathing world created by an artist. So for Priestley, the whole thing is just a well-intentioned failure. But hold on, because that is only one side of the coin. Now we're going to flip it over and hear the defense. And believe me, F.R. Leavis has a completely, radically different take on the exact same book.
Leavis kicks off his whole argument with this really game-changing question. What if Priestley and all those other critics are just wrong? Not wrong about what they see, but wrong about how they're judging the book. What if it was never supposed to be realistic in the first place?
Instead, Leavis says Hard Times is something called a moral fable. And this, right here, this is the absolute key to unlocking his entire argument. See, a moral fable isn't a story trying to be real life. It's a story where everything, every single character, every place, every event is a symbol for something bigger. You're not supposed to read it like a documentary. You're supposed to read it like a poem, where every little piece is packed with meaning. And Leavis says, hey, you want proof? Just look at the very first scene in the schoolroom. This is the perfect example of the moral fable in action.
You probably know this scene. The schoolmaster, Gradgrind, demands, "Give me your definition of a horse." Now Sissy Jupe, who grew up in a circus and actually knows and loves horses, is totally stunned into silence. But Bitzer, the star pupil, he just fires back with a dry textbook definition without even blinking.
So if you look at this through Leavis's eyes, Sissy and Bitzer aren't supposed to be real kids. They're symbols, right? Sissy represents that real, hands-on, intuitive knowledge you get from living. Bitzer, on the other hand, represents that cold, mechanical, just spit-it-back-out, fact-based knowledge that has no heart. The scene isn't really about a horse at all. It's this big symbolic clash between vibrant life and a soul-crushing system.
Okay, this brings us to what might be the most controversial part of the whole novel, and it's the thing that really divides our two critics, the circus.
Yeah, seriously. How you feel about Sleary's circus is pretty much a litmus test for your entire reading of the book. This is where Priestley's and Leavis's arguments just slam right into each other.
So for Priestley, the circus just feels totally fake, artificial. It's this flimsy, unconvincing idea that's supposed to contrast with the grim reality of Coketown. But for Leavis? Oh no. For Leavis, the circus is the symbolic heart of the entire novel. It stands for everything that Coketown and Gradgrind's philosophy is trying to stamp out: human connection, spontaneity, skill, and art. Leavis argues that the circus gives the factory workers of Coketown a glimpse of life lived with joy and vitality. It's not just entertainment, it's this profound reminder that there's another way to exist, one that's based on grace and humanity, not just facts and figures. It's the symbolic antidote to the poison of industrialism.
So, where does all this leave us? This whole debate, it's not really just about two guys arguing over a book. It's about something way bigger.
When you really get down to it, Priestley and Leavis have fundamentally different ideas about what a novel, what art itself is supposed to do. Their fight over Hard Times is really a proxy war over the whole function of literature.
And this chart really lays it all out, doesn't it?
For Priestley, who's looking for social realism, the characters are just flimsy caricatures because they're not lifelike. But for Leavis, who sees a moral fable, they are incredibly powerful symbols precisely because they're not realistic. It all boils down to this. Priestley thinks art should hold up a mirror to the world, while Leavis believes art's job is to reveal a deeper, symbolic truth.
And that leaves us with the final essential question for you to think about. What should art do? Should it show us life as it is, or should it use unrealistic, symbolic ways to show us a profound truth about life? Is Hard Times a muddle or a masterpiece? In the end, the answer depends entirely on what you believe art is for.